So, folks, there's this guy named Mike Lawler. He's a member of Congress. He's a Republican. And he had a town hall a few months ago that did not go very well. It didn't go very well at all. And so, of course, after we covered that one months ago, we have to cover his new one. I guess we just need to dive in to see if have things improved for poor conservative Mike Lawler, or have they only worsened? Maybe we can treat this as kind of a bellwether of where the country's at when it comes to how they feel about Republicans in power. I think that would be fair. Now, before we get into it, remember to like, comment, subscribe. It helps the channel, and I really, really appreciate it. So please and thank you. But without further ado, let's jump right in here. And I do apologize for the audio. I tried to find footage of the town hall uploaded directly by the campaign, because usually politicians do that sort of thing. I couldn't find that. And I can't imagine why. I have no idea. But I did find Forbes Breaking News had the entire thing. So let's take a look. Let's take a look, huh?
Good evening,
So we're opening up with booze. That's always a good sign.
everyone. It's great to be here with all of you. Appreciate all of you coming out tonight to join us for the first of 4 announced town halls. Before we begin, I'm going to ask Sean Glendenning, who works in my office. He's general counsel, serves in our Veterans Affairs program. Ask him to come up and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Please tell me you're not objecting to the Pledge of Allegiance.
Okay, but that's objectively a really weird thing to do. That's a weird thing to do. You can't, you're objecting to the Pledge of Allegiance. Yeah, you know what? If somebody at an event wanted to do a Pledge of Allegiance for no reason at the start of it, yeah, I wouldn't want to do that, actually. I would think that's really weird and cringe. And honestly, the fact that you want people in your audience to pledge allegiance to the country you represent, bitch, they got out of bed to come to your event because they care about this country. You've already self-selected for people who have pledged allegiance to the country. That's why they're there, motherfucker.
God bless.
Thank you, Congressman Lawler. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can we just acknowledge for a second, that is some cringe, we should probably stop doing it, it's some cringe, nationalistic, bullshit. The national anthem makes sense. People like singing. People like doing it at sports games and stuff. But pledging allegiance, that's some North Korean horse shit right there. Wait, did he forget a line? Wait. No, he didn't. You guys fooling me.
Okay. Well, I'm looking forward to a great conversation tonight and answering your questions. Before we get to the questions, I'll be very brief. I'm just going to make a general statement. It has been a great honor to serve as your member of Congress for the
I really hope his general statement is basically acknowledging he's about to get his ass kicked.
last 2+ years, representing the 17th Congressional District of New York in Washington, and having the ability to serve on the House Financial Services and Foreign Affairs Committee. This year, I was appointed to serve as chair of the Middle East and North Africa Subcommittee, which is a great honor, certainly, and given the challenges that we're dealing with around the globe, and certainly in the Middle East, something that I am immensely proud of and certainly focused on. During my time in Congress, I've been rated the 4th most bipartisan member of Congress. I've also been rated the most effective freshman member of the 118th Congress. And that is precisely because I've been able to get things done on behalf of our community, including passing 11 pieces of legislation, 6 of which were signed into law by President Biden. And the fact is, not many people can actually say that. Our prior representative got exactly 1 bill passed to rename a post office. So to those of you who feel that you're not being represented, the fact is that I have been doing the job effectively on behalf of our district and working with folks in both parties, as I always have and always will. And the fact is that we as a country, whether people like the outcome of an election or not, the fact is that we are a strong, united country. And we have...
Dude is like prepping his Netflix stand-up special here. He's getting some solid laughs.
We are a strong, united country that is rooted in shared values, shared belief.
They're literally booing, jeering, and laughing at him as he's like, now we all have a lot in common now, don't we? I do my job. Ha ha ha
ha. And an ability,
please don't
if you're
tell me
willing to
off.
listen to each other, to get things done. And for those of you that are here tonight, because you actually want to ask questions and engage in conversation, that's why I'm here. And I'm happy to answer your questions and look forward to it. And so with that, we will begin the process. As I always have at these town hall meetings, it is a random draw, and we will be calling out your ticket.
Before we start, I'd like to ask you a personal question. So there's a lot of proposed legislation, bipartisan legislation, to either restrict or prohibit stock sales from people of Congress. So I'd just like to get your position on that.
On the issue of banning stock trading in Congress, I fully support banning stock trading. I've been a co-sponsor of that bill both in the 118th and now again in the 119th. I don't care what party you belong to. The fact is, if you are a member of Congress, you are aware of information that the general public just is not aware of, period. And so on the issue of banning stock trading, it should be banned. I fully support that legislation and hope that we can bring it to the floor for a vote.
Hot dog.
Thank you. You have a question?
He is not screening the tickets, ma'am. There are no names on the tickets, and numbers will then be called, and then we will come around for you to ask your question. Thank you.
They're already so fucking defensive. It's crazy.
Okay. This ticket number is 439.
No, this is a different guy who had pre-approved questions.
439-358.
Do you have the ticket?
Okay, pull another one. I'm not gonna, they can certainly. Want me to do another one?
We gonna get to a question?
Can they put a little?
Yeah.
Good night,
If we
Ashley.
can bring the
Get good
house lights
sleep.
up a little bit.
I guess we'll wait and see this one if they.
Teresa, can you just repeat that, please?
The first number is 439-358.
Right over there.
43958.
If you could please come over to this side.
Government efficiency of Republicans on full display.
Thank you for the opportunity. So you describe yourself as a moderate, yet you support all of the policies that this authoritarian administration is putting forth, including
Hey, get him.
tax cuts for the corporations and the ultra-wealthy, the tariffs that are going to make everything more expensive for us, kidnapping and deporting 2-year-olds who have cancer and sending them off. So my
Fuck,
question to
lady
you,
spittin'.
none of this is helping us. We're getting hurt. We in the community are being harmed by this. What are you doing to stand in opposition to this administration, and what specifically are you doing that warrants the label moderate?
Get his ass. Let's go. Question number 1 from this debate.
So again, my record speaks for itself. I have been
Clearly it doesn't
rated
if the
the
question
fourth
has
most
to be
bipartisan
asked.
for a reason, which is a very simple fact that unlike many of my colleagues, I actually do work across the aisle. I actually do sit down with my colleagues. There's not a single local elected official who can honestly say that I have not sat down with them and worked with them regardless of their party. There's not a single one of my Democratic colleagues in the Congress who could say that I don't do that. When it comes to, folks, if you want me to answer the questions, let the question be asked and then listen to the answer.
Everyone stop being a big baby about
yell
this.
back and forth, the time is going to run pretty quick. So, folks, when it comes to the economy, okay, we have an affordability crisis. This crisis didn't just start. We've been dealing with it for the last 4 years. Everything went up. The cost of groceries, the cost of housing. For instance, in Rockland County, the average mortgage cost went up $1,000 a month. That's over $12,000 a year on an annual basis, okay? And so what we're dealing with is trying to reverse a lot of this. What happened? What caused that? What caused record inflation? $5 trillion in new spending in the first 2 years of the Biden administration is what gave us record inflation. And so when you have record inflation,
Dude, they don't
you
even
have
buy
to
it
be
for like a
able to
second.
curtail inflation. So
I'm
what
loving
happened?
this
Interest
audience.
rates went up, right? And that drove up mortgage costs. You have to be able to reverse that. So you bring down interest rates, you bring down spending. Right now, we are $36 trillion in debt. We are spending $7 trillion on an annual basis, with $2 trillion in deficit spending and $1 trillion in interest payments on our debt.
God, I really wish in the course of talking about this, I really wish more people would talk about how like the United States gets to do deficit spending the way we do because we're a global superpower. It's literally part of why we project power the way we do. It's so that we can do that shit, right? Because since the entire world by virtue of like the US military and our various like diplomatic dealings, etc., by virtue of essentially American empire, we are able to do deficit spending in a way that like no other country can do, really. Like, it's not an option for most countries. But because the entire world deals in US dollars, it's an option for us. And like, instead of just acknowledging, hey, this is, one of the perks of being an empire, they're like, nah, actually, the perks of being an empire are bad and wrong, and we shouldn't have them. But at the same time, they want to support American empire. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. They just, there's like a fundamental disconnect. And the only way I can make sense of it is essentially that these people understand that, but they keep using this as a talking point because people who don't know better hear that talking point and think, yeah, we need to organize the government finances like it's the finances of my household. But that's not the finances of your household, and the finances of a country of, 350 million people are not the same thing. The economics of like international trade and like monetary policy are not the same as the trade and monetary policy of your household.
At the end of this year, the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act is going to expire. And
yeah, good.
We're getting there. If the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act expires, do you know what will happen? The standard deduction will be cut in half.
You know what will happen if the Tax Cut and Jobs Act expires? The billionaires will finally have to pay more in taxes, and that would be really bad, wouldn't it? You don't want the billionaires to pay more in taxes. Why I mean, you guys will pay more in taxes.
That will be the largest tax increase in American history. The corporate tax rate is set at 21%, and I don't support lowering it. I don't support changing the corporate tax rate. I do support lifting the cap on salt, which directly impacts all of us in this room. Under the Tax Cut and Jobs Act, the state and local tax deduction was capped at $10,000 per individual. And that was passed by a Republican Congress and signed by President Trump. I didn't support it then, and I don't support it now. And that is why, as we negotiate the reconciliation bill, I have been working to lift the cap on salt. That will provide immediate tax relief to all of us in this room. Prior to 2017, 50% of households itemized their deduction in our district. After the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, it was down to about 18% of households itemizing their deduction.
Hey, you know, like, what would be even better than like boring tax shit about like households itemizing deductions and whatever? You know, it'd be even better than that. Just not bowing and buckling to the TurboTax lobby, and instead just sending people a tax bill. The government, like the IRS knows how much money you're supposed to pay them. They know that. They have accountants there. So just send us a goddamn bill. That's what they were gonna do, but TurboTax has been lobbying the government to not do that for like the last decade.
Most people chose to take the standard deduction. I want to lift the cap on salt because all of us know our property taxes are among the highest in the nation. And so that is critically important. That is a big proponent of the bill that we are in the process of negotiating right now. And so that is, folks, I was answering the tax question with respect to With respect to tariffs, tariffs are obviously something that has been a big point of discussion for many years. Chuck Schumer and Bernie Sanders both previously on the record said that they supported increasing tariffs. And part of the reason is because other countries have had significantly higher tariffs, barriers to entry, and price controls on U.S. goods. And when you look at, for instance, Europe has price controls on U.S. prescription drugs. U.S. prescription drug costs are significantly higher. U.S. prescription drug costs are significantly higher because we are subsidizing Europe. Europe puts price controls on U.S. drugs.
I can't hear what they're chanting.
If you want to pay higher drug costs, then I guess you want Europe to keep their price controls in place. Is that what you're arguing for? At the end of the day, we need
it's absolute bullshit.
A
This guy's lying
negotiation
through his
between
teeth.
our country and other countries to reduce overall tariffs, to reduce barriers to entry for U.S. goods.
Other countries aren't tariffing U.S. goods to death. We're the ones putting unreasonable... Like, guys, just real quick here. To get just as a 1 point of comparison, the European Union has a 4.5% tariff on goods and coming in from the United States. We have a blanket 10% on them. It's not, we are the ones unreasonably tariffing other countries here. It's bizarre. Oh no, your dog chewed through your stereo cable, Paladin. Are they okay? I mean, your stereo cable is definitely not okay, but are they okay? Yeah, 10% on all countries except for Canada and Mexico and China. They have higher tariffs.
And products, including...
He thinks they are stupid. That is exactly it, right? This kind of condescending bullshit from Republicans is not going to fly for much longer at all, you know? They, if I was this guy, I would not seek re-election.
Cars, including agricultural products. We want to be able to sell those in other countries. But when you have Europe blocking American cattle from coming in, or you have Japan blocking U.S. cars from coming in, that's not fair trade. So negotiating a fair trade deal is critically important, and that's what we're in the process of doing.
We block other countries' cars from coming in here. What the fuck are you talking about, man?
Just keep going.
I got one. Okay, the next number's 280028.
Can you repeat that, please, Teresa?
280028.
You're a disgrace.
Thank you so much. Oh, you're holding it for
Yes.
me? Oh, okay. Thank you so much. I'm very nervous.
okay.
And I appreciate you taking my question. My father did serve in the military, and I presently have family that's in the military.
Thank you for their service.
Thank you
He
for
never
their
wanted
service.
thanks. He
Jesus.
fought at Iwo Jima. So my question is, how can we let somebody head our military who can't even control his text messages?
Hey, get his ass. Let's go.
So, as I said when that story came out, the use of Signal to communicate any classified or sensitive information was wrong. Never should have happened. There should be significant safeguards put in place to ensure that that does not occur. And folks,
Folks.
The secretary was confirmed by the Senate. The president is not firing him. And so the question to me is on the actual military preparedness and readiness. Okay? And thus far,
guys.
on the operations that the military has conducted under Secretary Hegseth, those operations themselves have gone well. If you look at, now, what I find interesting here is that we look at the decision-making of cabinet secretaries. When it comes to the military, in the last administration, Secretary Austin oversaw the disastrous withdrawal in Afghanistan that resulted in the death of 13 U.S. service members. And if you do not believe that there should be accountability for that, if you do not believe there should be accountability for military operations, then why are we demanding a resignation based on a communication? The communication itself should not have occurred.
It's insane to me that Republicans are dying on this hill of like, actually, it's okay to expose national security secrets. You know, as long as you're an incompetent boob, it's fine. Like that. What kind of what? It's completely indefensible. Like completely indefensible. Like, hey, look. Look. If you leak national security secrets on purpose, that's bad, and you should be sent to a CIA black site for the rest of your life to be tortured. But if you do it on accident, because you're just the world's largest moron, it's fine. It's fine. Like, what the fuck? Genuinely.
I'm calling my rep out on his condescending and misleading behavior and told him if he doesn't know how the Constitution works, then to resign and find a new job. We're sick of his bullshit.
Zia Spots, thank you for the $10 super chat. I very, very much appreciate that. And good work telling your representative to, pack his bags. Because, jeez Louise. Signal is fine. Signal is fine if you are looking for security and you're like an average Joe schmo. Okay, that Signal is fine in that particular instance. Signal is not fine in this case.
Us Republican politicians failing and Republican citizens waking up. This is why I donate.
One-Eyed Heathen, thank you very much for the $5 super chat, and you're very welcome. But also, keep in mind, and I think I mentioned this a couple days ago, it's not just Signal. Because they're using Signal, for sure, but that is in turn destroying records of their government actions, which is in direct violation of federal law. The Congressional Records Act, right? And two, not only are they using Signal to bypass congressional law, they are also using an unregistered, not an unregistered, but a bootleg, a knockoff version of Signal called Telemessage, which was basically created by a bunch of Israeli spies. And Mike Waltz has been using that. It's basically a Signal, but it archives all of the messages. And that's been hacked. Telemessage is like a less secure Signal. It got found out that Mike Waltz was using it and almost immediately got hacked. Using Telemessage is an insane break in security. It was transmitting state secrets in plain text. Jesus Christ, what? Wait, okay, so Telemessage is a bot for Signal. You invite Telemessage into your Signal chat, and it transfers the messages to archive, but in transferring it, it transfers it in plain text to an archive that is less secure. That's insane. That's insane. This guy's getting up on stage and defending literally some of the most insane shit I've ever heard.
It should not have occurred.
It shouldn't have happened, but it's fine.
My view has been the administration made that clear when it came out, and they said, the White House said that was wrong. It should not have occurred.
The White House said whoopsie daisy, so it's fine.
They did. And so the objective...
Haven't you ever whoopsie daisied in your life? Let he who is not whoopsie daisied cast the first stone.
Objective is to make sure, A, that does not happen again, but B, more importantly to me...
Our first objective should be to make sure it doesn't happen again. Man says as it happens over and over and over again to a comedically buffoonish degree. Like, we can never let this happen again. Immediately happens again.
That the military operations are what is paramount, and that those making the decisions they got lucky? Sir, we have a terrific military of trained professionals. They didn't get lucky, they did their job, okay? The fact is...
We have a terrific military of trained professionals led by a complete and utter dumbass. Sir, they did their job. No, guys, it has happened so much more than twice. It's not just twice. It's so much more than twice. They're doing, like, all of their official communications via Signal. Like, Mike Waltz had, like, 20 of them going on. Yeah, you know, Pete Hegseth has 2. But if there are 2, you fucking know he's in, like, 15 more.
The fact is that, as I said, they should not be using Signal to communicate any classified or sensitive information, period. And that's it.
They shouldn't be doing that. That's wrong.
439305.
76 867 5309.
Come here.
Hey, SJ.
You supported a budget that cut Medicaid and education in our district.
And
how does that serve your constituents?
Get his ass. Let's go. Love it.
So the reconciliation process that we're undertaking right now, in order for that process to start, you have to pass a budget resolution. The budget resolution put together top-line numbers that talks about potential savings of $1.5 trillion over 10 years. Over the next 10-year window, we're spending $86 trillion projected. 86 trillion. This has nothing to do with Elon Musk. We're projected to spend $86 trillion over the next 10 years, okay? We're spending roughly $7 trillion a year. We're running $2 trillion budget deficits on an annual basis, and we're paying $1 trillion in interest on our debt at $36 trillion. Both parties are responsible for this mess that we're in financially. Both parties over the last 20 years.
Hey chat, remember price controls aren't tariffs, and we could do them here.
True.
Also, they ban U.S. cars because they either don't meet emissions standards or are physically too big for the roads.
It's true. That I believe the physically too big for the road thing is why the Cybertruck can't be approved. It would literally like destroy European roads. It's just too big. Also, Plevius, thank you for the $5 dono. Appreciate it.
Over the last 20 years, had both parties, sir, ma'am, I'm giving you the context so that you actually understand the process, okay? The fact is, over the last 20 years, we have increased our debt by $30 trillion.
This is bullshit. It's just a tool to try and justify draconian cuts. Because keep in mind, you can very easily tell exactly how this is bullshit, right? Because the proposal he wants to make doesn't balance the budget. When he's talking about deficits and shit, he knows they know this too, because they are talking about how he voted to cut Medicaid in the budget. Which means he knows that they already know that essentially he voted for a budget that would blow a hole in the deficit to legendary proportions. That essentially the goal of this is to do deficit spending, except instead of doing it to benefit everyone in society, it's to benefit the billionaires. To get it, to fuel them up in the race to become the world's first trillionaire. That's entirely what all this is about. Disgusting.
Okay, $30 trillion in 20 years. That's not sustainable for any of us. Our children and our grandchildren are going to be saddled with that debt. And that will have a profound impact. That will have a profound impact on the vital services that we all rely on. So when you're talking about the issue of Medicaid, okay? Sir, hey, do not speak to my staff like that. If you want to leave, you can leave now. Everybody show everybody a little bit of respect here, please. Okay? I always show people respect. All right? It's a two-way street.
Unless they're transgender, in which case, get the fuck out of the military because I'm a bigot. But I show everyone respect. It's how this all works, right?
Congressman, can we ask that people please put with the videos of staff?
Folks, you can take your anger out on me, that's fine. Treat my staff with respect, okay? They show up every day to serve this community. They don't need to be attacked, yelled at, berated. It's unnecessary. When it comes to Medicaid, I've been very clear. I am not cutting benefits for any eligible recipient, period. And the fact is that our community relies on these vital programs. The IDD community, our seniors, children, single mothers. There are a lot of people across our community who need these programs. And we want to make sure that they are protected. But the fact is that when you are coming up with a budget resolution, it's a top-line number. The question is, what can get 218 votes as part of a reconciliation?
Jack, didn't Trump's tariff in his first term cause us to have to subsidize farmers? So in that way, tariffs can actually negatively impact the budget? Yes. Tariffs, by the way, almost always negatively impact the budget. Like there's not really a time during which tariffs positively impact the budget. The reason you would want to do tariffs is for a limited time in order to grow a domestic market and domestic manufacturing base. Like that's really the one situation you'd want to do them. Otherwise, it's just net negative.
Reconciliation bill. And I've been very clear. I am not changing the FMAP floor from 50% federal share to 45% federal share. I'm not changing it to block grants or per capita caps. I'm not putting work requirements on the disabled, period. We are not, we're not cutting DISH, for instance. So we will make sure that this program is protected. There is about 25 of us within the conference who have been very clear with leadership. We've met with the president about it. We've met with the administration. And we will continue to make sure that
administration would be terrific Peppa hands.
No. Sake Tanuki, thank you for the 5 tier 1 subs. And also, that pun was devastating.
As we negotiate the tax bill, that we absolutely safeguard these vital services and programs. But I will also be clear about something.
God damn it.
If you are an able-bodied adult without any dependents, work requirements are
good,
because
actually.
the objective of Medicaid,
I love, by the way, that he's like, look, we're not going to be putting the disabled to work, but you are going to have to like do everything to prove. We're gonna like push you out of your wheelchair and see if you can walk for real. We're gonna throw you into lake and make sure that you're really disabled before we let you have Medicaid. And it's still not going to be enough to live on. Like the cartoonishly evil motherfucker.
Of Medicaid, folks. Medicaid is a means-tested program that is intended to help people who need it.
Does Sake Tanuki single-handedly fund White Leaf members? Maybe. But, I for one, really fucking appreciate it.
It is not intended for those who do not need long-term support. It is not intended for somebody to stay on it permanently. So if somebody is an able-bodied adult, they should go certainly try, to get a job and work. And by the way, that is something that Bill Clinton championed in the 90s and Democrats fully supported, and they should support. Now, when it comes to illegal immigrants, in New York State, $1.2 billion of our taxpayer money has been spent on Medicaid. I'm sorry, that is not a proper use of taxpayer money, period.
Why? Undocumented immigrants aren't getting Medicaid. Those two ideas are completely unrelated.
Furthermore, the Biden administration changed the eligibility verification rules from a quarterly basis to an annual basis. If somebody, I'm telling you the facts, you can not like it, but that is the fact. They changed the rules, and so that alone would save upwards of about...
If you aren't an able-bodied adult, we want you to die anyway, as we're against disability too.
I mean, like, seriously, right? Like, this guy's acting, and like, again, he does think all of his constituents are morons, right? Like, this guy's acting like Republicans haven't, from its inception, opposed like the ADA and tried to repeal it. Tried to get rid of the Americans with Disabilities Act because like they feel personally wronged by the requirement for like small businesses and to make ramps at their at the entrances and exits of their buildings. Like this guy's acting as if he's not a member of a party so ghoulish that that's like one of their main things. Also, Sake Tanuki, thank you for the 5 tier 1 subs.
$200 billion for the program and the very people who rely on it. We want to make sure Medicaid is protected for every single person who needs that vital service and not losing, which CMS, the Center for Medicaid Services, says on an annual basis they're losing $50 billion in fraudulent payments. And so we want to make sure that you stop that and you protect these vital programs.
058111.
058111.
867-5309. 867-5309.
You have to hold it? Thank you for taking my question. I want to build on the question about Medicaid in the budget resolution that you voted for. $880 billion is targeted to be cut in 10 years from mandatory spending of the House Committee on Energy and Commerce. The total projected outlay of that committee, as per the Congressional Budget Office, is $8.8 trillion. If you back out Medicaid, the balance outlay is $581 billion. If you back out Medicaid, CHIP, which I'm sure you know is children's health insurance, as well as the budget neutral items, the balance is $135 billion. Where are you going to find $880 billion other than from Medicaid?
Having a good time here. Well, accept us.
Oblivious, thank you for the $5 dono, and also thank you for having a good time. I appreciate it. Also, this is a very good question this lady's asking, because, like, yeah, the math doesn't math. And this is there's a reason why he's like looking down almost like he's ashamed here. And it's because she's completely right. The math doesn't math. Republicans have been trying to say, oh, we're going to get it from the waste, fraud, and abuse. And Elon Musk has literally not found any. You know, we're going to get it by firing all the federal workers. And like, even if you fire a bunch, like most of them, it doesn't get you remotely close to the number you need to get to give the size of tax cuts that they want to give. Right? The only way they get this money is from Medicaid, Medicare, or Social Security. That's it. That's it. Yeah, we're going to get out of it with gold cards. Yeah, they're going to sell enough citizenships. Nope. I'm a politician, not a calculator.
So, when it comes to budget reconciliation, it is the Senate number that governs, not the House number. The Senate number that they passed just 2 weeks ago was $4 billion total. $4 billion total across the entirety of the government. Not $1.5 trillion, $4 billion. The objective to me has always been, you have to find 218 votes. And I can tell you right now, there will not be 218 votes to cut Medicaid to eligible recipients, period. There is a whole group of us that, going back to last year, and then in January, we made it very clear to leadership. I met with the president at the White House with a group of about 20. We made it clear to the president. The president actually agreed with us about not wanting to cut Medicaid. The issue is getting a budget resolution, which was the first step in the reconciliation process, passed. That's what we did. We passed a budget resolution that has a framework. As far as I'm concerned, that is as good as the paper it was written on. The issue is the actual reconciliation bill. That is the bill that matters. That is the one that will determine what, if any, changes there are to any spending. And the question will be, can you get to 218 votes? I've been very clear. I will not support a reconciliation bill that cuts Medicaid benefits to eligible recipients, and I will not support a reconciliation bill that does not lift the cap on salt, period. I will vote no if it does either of those things.
That's so cool of you, man. You must be like the coolest Republican. That's a good question there, random lady in the crowd whose turn it was not. You do not have bingo, ma'am. But it was a very good question.
Ma'am, we said no yelling out. Can you please?
Oh my God.
The states run the Medicaid program.
Please.
Okay, the number is 439-188. 439-188.
Okay, you can hold it. Thank you. Thank you for taking my question. I want to follow up on some other things that have been said, and I ask that people let me finish, please, and that you answer my question. On Friday, this administration deported 3 children, ages 2, 4, and 7,
get his ass.
who are U.S. citizens.
Get his ass.
The 4-year-old with a rare form of metastatic cancer receiving treatment and deported, thank you, without medication, and all without consultation with their families, attorneys, or physician. All of the families were complying with law, a routine check-in, only to be detained and then deported. These continuing illegal actions by the administration cannot be tolerated by Congress, but you said you are not concerned with authoritarianism since there are 3 equal branches of government on the Brian Lehrer show on Friday when I heard you. You're consistently seen as a bipartisan member of Congress, but your actions speak louder than your words. When will you uphold and adhere to the Constitution? Where is your line on all of these illegal actions? Do you want to be known? Hold on.
Good fucking shit, lady. Good job.
As Mike Lawler or Mike?
So,
no, I wanted to hear her zinger. I wanted to hear her zinger. Do you want to be called? Do you want to be known as Mike Lawler or what? Mike Lawler or Mike LawLESS? Maybe. I want to hear her cook. I was waiting for it. The 1-2 punch.
Said the other day when I was on CNN actually when the Supreme Court ruling came out 9-0 against the administration with respect to the deportation of
good. At
Mr.
least he
Abrego
acknowledges
Garcia.
that the Supreme Court was
And
against
I
Donald
said
Trump.
The administration should abide by the Supreme Court ruling. Period. If as co-equal branches of government, okay, it's not superior. It's not the executive above the legislature. Or folks, let me explain, please. It's not
God, guys.
It's not one branch above the other. We are all co-equal. And what has happened over many administrations is executive power has become condensed in the executive. And I fundamentally believe both Congress and the judiciary have to reassert their rightful powers. So with respect to, okay.
Get his ass. Let's go. Do it.
Okay. With respect to the deportation of U.S. citizens, that should not happen. They should be immediately returned, and the administration should facilitate their return. Now, as the Supreme Court ruled on the case of Mr. Abrego Garcia, they said there was a court order prohibiting his deportation to El Salvador, despite him being an El Salvador national. And they said that he should not have been. And I agree with that because you had a court order. They also said that the administration should facilitate his return and go through the deportation process. And that's exactly what they should do. They should follow the administrative law.
Wait, but following the administrative law would be not going through the deportation process because he can't be deported there. He was here legally.
should follow
You ghoul.
the court orders, period. I fundamentally believe that. And obviously, the courts are going to weigh in again here. And what you will have, if the administration does not facilitate the return of both either a U.S. citizen or, in the case of Mr. Abrego Garcia, you will have the courts take significant action holding numerous people in contempt. And that will happen if they do not abide by the court ruling. And so they should.
Okay, sir.
I have, and I just did again in front of you.
God.
Congressman.
Owned, liberal.
Would you like to talk? Excuse me,
I
everyone.
would just keep going with questions.
Okay.
Just keep going with questions. I said they should be returned. I just said that.
Okay.
If you take the
I just said
opportunity
it.
to listen instead of yelling, you might actually hear the answer you want to hear.
Dude, he's treating them like children. What a fuck. What a... Like, how did you guys elect this guy?
Two 80051. 280051. Two 80051.
Few people left. No.
Teresa, can you repeat that for a moment, please?
280051.
Liz,
Okay.
that's a really excellent point. Liz Galahad, fun fact. The TSA has spent probably over $1 billion on body language detection software and training, which is a pseudoscience. If you want to find waste, fraud, and abuse, it's always something we have for security, especially if it falls into the camp of security theater, you know, where it's just there to make you feel safe, but it doesn't actually make us safer.
We'll go on to the next one.
Yeah, they yelled enough. 058
Wow, sassy,
058132.
Employees here, assistants, whatever, you know, staffers. There we go. That's the word.
Can you state your name first before you speak?
Sue Ridge. Oh, I can't hold it? Okay. Okay, my question, I want to follow up on the last question. You've told us what the administration should do. Our question to you is, what is Congress going to do to help enforce what should be done by the administration?
Hey, let's go! He has not had a single question that is even remotely supportive of him and his position. Not a single one.
So I have reached out to the administration with respect to the issue pertaining to the deportations where there is a court order, and believe fundamentally they should abide by that. If they do not, the mechanism for enforcement of that is through the court, and the court will take action to enforce their order. If then
how
they still do
what
not
mechanism does the court
adhere
have to do that?
a court order, then Congress certainly would have purview for oversight to engage in oversight activity. But on that particular case, the Mr. Abrego Garcia case, the president was actually asked about it yesterday, and he did say that they should abide by it. And so I think what you will see, if they do not, the court will intervene to enforce their order.
Also, like, I'm sorry, what do you mean if they do not? You're one of this guy's supporters. You are someone who has ceded him authority. What do you mean if they do not?
And folks, that is the process. That is the process. The court has a court order. The court will be the one that intervenes to enforce their court order. That is the process by which, as co-equal branches of government, we undertake. If they do not then abide by it, Congress has oversight responsibility and should utilize it.
There you go. You know, we're at least in the same fucking mile of a shared reality there, I guess.
439-274. 439-274.
Ew, what a disgusting loser, and a disgrace to leftist audio. Also, hi Peepashi, I like your shirt.
Hey, Entrama, I hope your interview went really well. And also, thank you for subscribing. I appreciate you. Hope you're doing well.
Rebecca Fennell. I have a rather different topic, so I apologize if people don't want to change the subject at all. But my question is about RFK Jr., for whom I assume I'm pretty sure you voted for him, and I wonder, do you honestly?
I did not. The Senate is the one that confirms.
Oh, that's true. That's true. I'm sorry.
But
do you think?
I
apologize for that. Do you think
I would
he
never.
is
I would never
the right
support
man
him
for that job? And do you approve of what he has been doing and the changes it's going to make to our medical care?
So on the issue of vaccines, for instance, I've been very critical of many of his statements, especially statements pertaining to autism. I think obviously it is certainly something that all of us should want research on causes of autism or why we...
Yeah, but the crazy thing about that, Mike Lawler, is that we already have a bunch of people doing research on autism. And you know what? Robert F. Kennedy defunded them. Isn't that interesting?
We have seen over the last 20 plus years a significant increase in the number of autism cases. But I fundamentally believe in the efficacy of vaccines. I do think vaccines, by and large, have done more to cure diseases as well as prevent illnesses, especially among children and adults. And so I think it is imperative when we're talking about vaccines that we do so based on the science. And while I do believe there should be robust conversation, as science provides for and should, because there's constant research and they're always learning and they should learn new things. When it comes to our food, I do actually agree with many of the things he has talked about and some of the harmful impacts that some of the dyes, for instance, in our food. If you look at the announcement they came out with, they are...
Yeah, like there are some food dyes we should probably get rid of, but like if you watch that announcement, he goes into some really wacky directions with conspiratorial like treatment and shit. It's gross. Yo, Entrama, good luck finishing your thesis.
now following Europe in terms of banning some of these petroleum-based dyes to be used in our food. And I think that's a good thing. I actually support that, and I think he's right to raise that. I have disagreed with him on a number of decisions that have been made out of the Department of Health, and have written him already numerous letters with respect to, for instance, cuts to that would impact the World Trade Center Health Fund. I and my New York Republican colleagues pushed back hard against that. We went to the White House immediately.
Look at the trees.
They were able to reverse the decisions. When it comes to, for instance, cuts to HIV funding, I have been opposed to that. The fact is that eradicating HIV is something
I've been opposed to that, but I'm not like super concerned
Yellow
about
Lake
it.
40 has nothing on high fructose corn syrup. Wake me up when they are serious.
True. Like, genuinely. Also, and this is somewhat selfish, I would really like it if they got rid of titanium, like, whitener agents. And then this is just me, you know? My partner has, like, an allergy to titanium. And so, like, foods with that coloring in it can really mess with her, and I would like it if fewer things had it in it, because it's a rare allergy. But also, like, do you really need things to be whiter than they really are? I don't think we do. Also, maybe it's not great that we're eating titanium. I don't know. I'm just a simple country streamer.
We should all support. It is something that is vital, not only around the globe when you look at programs like PEPFAR, but it is critical for our LGBTQ plus community here in the United States and around the globe. I have pushed back against his proposed cut to the suicide hotline when it comes to the LGBT
also,
community.
Thank you for the 521 subs.
I do not support, folks.
Oh, Liz Galahad, I wasn't saying that to make you feel bad. I'm sorry.
Yelling out really doesn't change anything. The fact is that where I disagree, I have no problem saying it and pushing back against the things that they're doing. I'm constantly in touch with the administration.
Yeah, really though. But you say that, but you don't really seem like you're pushing back against it at all. It's weird.
Now, here is how this process is going to work. The administration is making recommended changes. They are putting forth cuts that they want to make. Over the next few months, between reconciliation, a rescissions package, and fiscal year 26 appropriations, Congress is going to weigh in heavily on every decision that they are trying to make at an administrative level. Some of them we will agree with. Some of them we will disagree with. Some of them will require folks like me pushing back against it. And that is the process that is undertaken when the administration seeks to withhold funds or cut programs. Through these layers that we're dealing with right now, reconciliation, rescission, and appropriations, that is where we are going to be weighing in heavily, in addition to the oversight that the committees engage with on a weekly basis.
Is this going how you thought it would, Mike?
058100. 058100.
Yeah, no actual answer at all, yeah. This is like a giant middle finger to his constituents. It's kind of nuts. Like, the level of bad politicking this is wild to me.
Teresa, can you repeat it one more time, please?
058100. No?
Can we call a new number?
Yep.
439183. 439183. 439183.
Staff are angry.
Oh, you can hold it? Okay. All right. So, a little background. All right. I've had my own software company for 40 years. Okay. I've had my own software company for 40 years. Okay. In that time, I've written software for the poultry industry, and I've seen...
I'm sorry, for which industry?
The poultry industry.
Poultry? Okay.
And I've seen the FDA inspectors and the Department of Agriculture work keeping our food safe. Okay? The budget cuts that we're doing right now is taking that away. What I do now, since my retirement, is I drive an ambulance. And my whole business in life right now is saving lives. What this administration is doing is going to hurt people or kill people. So my question is, you talk about pushing it back against all these cuts that you're doing to the NIH, to the FDA, to, okay, whatever. So my point is, if you don't get anything done, then maybe you should say you failed and you should leave. What do you think?
Dude! Okay, number one, that guy is cool as shit. He gave his entire life to make sure poultry is safe for people to eat. And now gives his life to drive people to the hospital. And he got up and he's like, yeah, maybe you should get the fuck out. Absolute legend.
My question is, what are you going to do to make sure that you're successful?
Well, again, when you are in elected office...
Look, you dipshit.
You're, in the case of Congress, one of 435, right? In the case of a county legislator, one of 17. In the case of a town board, one of 5. You have a responsibility to build consensus, which means you actually have to engage in conversation with people, even if you disagree strongly with them.
That's not the question.
And oftentimes, and I will tell you, this is
the question isn't...
I'm all I'm clucked out to be. Why aren't you?
Sake Tanuki, thank you for the 5 tier 1 subs. But genuinely, this... We're not asking why are you talking with people you disagree with. We're asking you why, what are you going to do? That's a very different question, right? And he can't answer it because he's a coward.
Mistake that my Democratic colleagues are making right now. It's not just enough to resist or say you hate the person in power or you hate the administration. You actually have to go engage in conversation. And I could stand on the street and yell and scream and hold signs and do that. But that in and of itself is not actually going to find compromise when you're dealing with these situations. And so what I have done and what I continue to do is engage directly with the president, with his cabinet secretaries, with the administration, with the staff on a daily basis. And sometimes we're successful in getting them to reverse, and other times we're not. And that is just a reality of government, okay? And so when you're talking about a budget as big as we have, $7 trillion, and we're blocking off roughly 87% of the federal spend. We're saying we're not going to touch this. So you're talking about arguing and fighting over 13% of the federal spend. Okay? And so that is where, when you're running $2 trillion deficits, and you're unwilling to touch all of these other programs, which are vital. But if you're not...
Okay, please, stop.
Folks, taxing the rich is not going to close our budget deficit. I hope you realize that.
Oh. God. Yes, it will. Oh, fuck. Look, folks, breathing oxygen isn't going to fix our suffocation problem, is it? Like, what in the fuck?
It really will not. It really will not. Let me ask you a question. What rate would you propose? What rate?
Just do
what
it.
Rate? What rate? What rate? What rate? Okay. The fact is,
incredible stuff.
The fact is, you are not going to be able to close this budget deficit, okay, just through the issue of taxes. The fact is, we are spending at astronomical levels. As I said before, both parties are responsible for adding $30 trillion in debt in the last 2 decades. 30 trillion in debt in 2 decades. When I was in high school, we were in single-digit trillions. So the fact is, you cannot just solve this through taxes. You have to get spending under control. And that's just a reality, whether people like it or not. It's just basic math.
I love that he's like, it's just basic math. And he didn't seem to understand the question about cutting Medicaid. Insane stuff. Uncle Gumball, thank you for the tier 1 sub.
How about 90% rate, tranche? Also, I hereby dub thee American Sargon, so suck on D's.
You know what? I am very specifically, if I were in this district, I would run specifically on a 1,000% tax rate on Mike Lawler specifically. 10,000% tax rate on Mike Lawler.
Why tax the rich now? We haven't done it in my lifetime.
Why? We've never tried it before. It's not a time to start trying now. Zaki Tanuki, thank you for the 5 tier 1 subs.
Okay, folks, we're here to hear the congressman. We're here to the congressman. 058064.
Actually, they're not here. I mean, part of why they're here is to hear the congressman, but like, genuinely, the main reason they're here is to speak to the congressman. You know?
058064. 058064.
I love this audience.
Good job, Don.
Many of my questions have already been asked, but I would like to point out that many of your answers have really obfuscated the questions that were asked to you.
Get his ass.
You have not answered. You have not. You tout yourself as a moderate bipartisan leader. I would like to see Congress put together a coalition of people who could actually do something about the cuts that have been made to Medicare, Medicaid.
There have been no cuts to Medicare.
Excuse me, let me finish.
There have been no cuts to Medicare. Ma'am, if you're going to say something demonstrably false, I'm going to correct you.
The agencies that run Social Security, Veterans Affairs, Medicaid, education, are welfare programs to help people overseas, to prevent disease coming to this country. What is Congress doing to coalesce behind a movement to stop this administration creating chaos and destruction, not only in this country, all over the world?
So you talked about foreign aid with respect to diseases, right? And preventing diseases around the globe. one of the things that I did immediately with respect to USAID was reach out to Secretary Rubio with respect to PEPFAR. PEPFAR has been one of the most consequential and significant foreign aid initiatives ever created by the United States. It has saved over 25 million lives around the globe, and you're talking about $80 on an annual basis per individual. It is one of the most effective programs. And I reached out immediately to make sure that while there was a 90-day pause on foreign aid, that they provided the waiver for PEPFAR to make sure that that program continued forward. And yes, it is. And so ultimately,
yes, it is.
Where, as I said before, Congress is going to be going through reconciliation, appropriations, and a rescissions package. And through that process, Congress will exert its constitutional authority of power of the purse and control of the spending. And that is the give and take. The administration has an ability to put forth rescissions that they would like to see. That does not mean that we have to accept it. And that is the process we are going to be going through in the coming weeks and months. And so that's where Congress will exert its authority when it comes to spending.
Yep.
Under the Impound Control Act, the administration has the ability to offer a rescission. Congress can either rescind or reject. That is the process.
Yeah.
058
maybe that's bad.
063.
Maybe abdicating all of your power and authority to that
063.
system is bad, actually. God.
Get another one. 058063. Nope. 280. Got it?
Oh, you have to. Yes. My question's about SSI and Social Security. I'm sure has not been cut, but the administrative staff and the people that administer it, the workers, have been cut. How is it possible to give the people that have paid into it what they deserve when the ability to implement it is gone? It's going. It's gone.
Yep.
So the federal workforce prior to COVID was 2.7 million people. At the end of Joe Biden's administration, the federal workforce was about 3 million people. Based on all the estimates that we have, based on changes that the administration has made to the federal workforce, they are still above 2.8 million people in the federal workforce. And so the numbers in the federal workforce are still higher today than they were prior to COVID. Now, COVID saw a surge in hiring. COVID saw a surge in hiring for a reason, for an obvious reason. And so what the administration has said, it's not bullshit, folks, it's actual numbers. What the
real numbers, not those fake numbers.
What the administration has put forth is an objective to bring the federal workforce down to roughly pre-COVID levels. Now, when it comes to Social Security and Medicare, there have been no cuts. Nobody has received a cut in benefits. There's not a single...
Yeah, no one's received cuts yet, ding dong, because the budget got kicked to September. And you think your constituents who rely on it to survive are so fucking stupid that they don't know that they don't pay attention to the programs they need in order to live. The condescension from this prick is insane.
Single person in this room that is on Social Security or Medicare that can honestly stand here and say that they have received a cut, because you haven't.
You know, I think you could call Doge trying to cut the phone lines out of Social Security a cut. I think you could call closing Social Security Administration offices across the country a cut. It meaningfully diminished the service that all of these people rely on.
Now, with respect to Social Security, sir, just yelling out is not going to change anything. All right, you're interrupting everybody else.
Yeah, I was about to change my mind, but now I'm not going to.
The fact is that during my time in Congress,
you were in big
I
meanie
have
pants.
fought to protect Social Security
God,
and
I
Medicare.
hate this guy.
I helped pass the Social Security Fairness Act so that people who for the last 40 years have been getting screwed because they had a pension and they were losing Social Security benefits, they now get those benefits because I fought to get that done. So when people say, oh, they're cutting Social Security or they're cutting Medicare, that is a lie, period.
No.
We are not.
No, this guy is insane. Here, you know what? I'm just going to do... Here, you know what? Let's just take a look here. I Googled Mike Lawler Medicaid cuts. Let's see. The top result from 6 hours ago. GOP moderates warm up to Mike Johnson's latest Medicaid plan. They've grown more comfortable with a revised House GOP effort to overhaul Medicaid following an evening meeting with Speaker Mike Johnson and other leaders. Let's take a look here. The plan is centered around work requirements for beneficiaries, more frequent eligibility checks in the program, and cracking down on coverage for non-citizens. Again, Medicaid doesn't cover non-citizens. Some controversial changes the moderates had blanched at appear to be omitted from the latest plan, cutting the federal share of funding for states that expanded Medicaid under the Affordable Care Act and capping federal payments to those expansion states. Let's see here. The retreat from the most ambitious cost-cutting proposals risks inciting House GOP hardliners. One leader of that group, Representative Chip Roy of Texas, said on X that caps were necessary to stop robbing from the vulnerable to fund the able-bodied. Yeah, nah, I'm sorry. Oh, look at that. Mike Lawler put, at the very least, being like, I don't support any change to FMAP. I don't support per capita caps. You know what? A rare semi-W moment, because, while he's not supporting those more heinous things, he is, again, supporting the other shit, which... I need to remind you, work requirements, more frequent eligibility checks, i.e. kick people off the program more frequently, and then cracking down on coverage for non-citizens. And I'm wondering if that's people on visas. I don't know, that's nebulous. I'd need to read more on that. But sorry, that's all dog shit. And those are cuts. Those are cuts to Medicaid. That's why they add more stringent requirements. Because it effectively cuts the program without them saying, it's a cut. They're just changing the rules a little bit, tweaking it to make it more effective by introducing cuts to the program. We'll see. We'll see if you are willing to stand up for what's right, Mike Lawler. But after seeing your performance here, I don't have high hopes.
Cutting Social Security or Medicare.
That fucking sucks ass. Yeah, exactly.
280030. 280030.
I'm sorry? So actually, let me address the office situation, because that's actually an important point. And folks, please, everybody came in here, whether you like me or not, whether you like my answers or not.
Most people don't like you.
Please try to abide by the rules so that everybody else has the opportunity and we can get through more questions. But just screaming and yelling at each other is not solving anything. So the fact
Answer
is,
the goddamn questions.
with respect to the Rockland County Social Security office, they shut it down in May of last year for renovations. And they told us it would be open by September. They didn't even start renovations until December. Then they told us it would be reopening this May, and now it's projected to be September. The failure...
Yeah, but they're doing it under your administration. They're doing it while you're the one doing this now, right? Like, you can't say, oh, they did this thing in the past that I didn't support. But we're talking about what they're doing right now, because they, in the past, closed it for renovations. Right now, you're just closing it forever. There's a big difference between those two things.
To actually get this office renovated, obviously in a timely manner, is absurd. It's absolutely absurd. And the White Plains office that has been subject to discussion, the White Plains office is not a full Social Security office. It is a field hearing office. And it was a massive space that they were underutilizing. And so the Biden administration notified my office in December that they were shutting down that office. They were not going to renew the lease, which was come due this May. I have reached out to the administration repeatedly for the purpose of trying to come up with a solution to make sure that there is a field hearing office within vicinity. My goal, my objective, is to get the Rockland office, when it is reopened, hopefully by September, when it is reopened in West Nyack, where we are, that it would also include a field hearing office so that everybody in our area has the ability to utilize that without having to travel. Now, 80+% of the hearings are now virtual because technology obviously has been extremely helpful. But for those that need the physical location, my objective is to get a solution with the administration that includes using the Rockland office as a field hearing office for those who need it.
Good night, vegan.
Congressman, we do have the person who had the ticket that was pulled. I'm going to let her answer the question back here.
Oh, sorry.
Okay?
Sorry, okay.
Okay. Okay. Okay. I just want to know, what is your position on holding federal funds back from institutions and trying to hold hostage big corporations?
Can you...
to withholding funds from...
Are you talking about
withholding federal
colleges?
funds from our institutions of high...
Can I just say, I really respect the folks who are turning up to these things and who are clearly speaking despite the fact that they have not done this before. This woman who's asking this question hasn't done this before. These are people who have never been to their representative's town hall in their life. You know, like, This is the first time she's doing it. That's bravery right there. That's cool as shit. Good on that lady. You know? That's amazing. Because I know that there are tons of people out there who are going to these things who have never done that before. I know that because, like, my mom's circle of friends who are all, like, 75 years old are, like, going and doing events like this. You know? There are people who have never been involved in politics before who are stepping up, and it's cool as shit to see. Good on this lady.
Your education.
Oh, okay. Sorry. So, in the instance of the two most obvious examples of that have been Columbia and Harvard in the last few weeks. And from my vantage point, I have said from the very beginning that the issue of anti-Semitism on these college campuses is a major one. And if you look at federal law, Title VI of the 1964 Civil Rights Act requires these institutions to enforce federal law and crack down on anti-Semitism. They have in large measure failed in that responsibility. And so I introduced legislation. You guys think Columbia and Harvard did a great job dealing with those college protests?
Dealing with the...
Listen.
Oh, yeah, the dangerous college protesters who were all chilling and, like, doing, like, a little encampments and shit. Yeah, so dangerous, guys. So dangerous.
Listen, those institutions take federal dollars. They are, quote unquote, private institutions that take federal dollars and yes, for research, but it is still federal taxpayer money. You are required to uphold federal law, period, full stop. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. And so last Congress, I introduced legislation that absolutely would strip any of these institutions of higher learning of federal dollars if they promoted or sanctioned anti-Semitism on their campuses, period. And in addition, I introduced the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act to enforce Title VI. I also introduced a bill that would put a 10% tax on their endowments. Because the fact is, they should be using their endowments to lessen the cost of college, and they are not doing that effectively. And so they should be taxed at a higher rate if they're acting as a hedge fund, period. And I would think for those that want to tax the rich, that you would want these institutions that are looking and acting like hedge funds to actually be taxed at a higher rate. Now, in addition to that, I would also say the flow of foreign dollars into our universities and institutions from countries like Qatar and China needs to be cracked down on, because they are using those dollars to exert control over what is being taught in these institutions by endowing a chair. They are endowing a chair. I find it fascinating that you guys support this. It really is interesting.
Dude, he's gleeful. I hope he's looking for a lobbying job.
So they are using federal dollars to actually endow chairs and teach certain curricula that undermines the United States and the free world. And that's fascinating that you support that. So I have no problem with the administration withholding federal dollars, taxpayer money, to universities like Harvard and Columbia that have allowed anti-Semitism to run wild on their campuses.
Look at I'm really impressed by this audience, to be honest.
058056.
058056.
You're the next contestant on The Price is Right.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, hi there. I was just curious, so...
My disabled daughter, Rachel Kessner, has launched a print business through Printify. T-shirts, coffee mugs and more. Has penguins holding up WTFs. Blue Rose Creations.
Well, Lee Kessner, thank you for the $10 super chat. And folks, go check out Rachel Kessner's Blue Rose Creations. Go give it a look. Might be neat. Go check it out. Thanks for the support, Lee Kessner.
Good job on the anti-Semitism bills that you've been pushing. Have you heard any Elon Musk jokes lately?
Is this the one, like, marginally, like, supportive guy in the audience?
Sir, do you have a question? That was a question. Because I find it ironic that you are so... that you'll take all the money from AIPAC. And then you'll take all the money from Musk.
Yeah,
but
the
then
elbow.
You can go down. Do you remember the little rant that Musk just went on not too long ago that wrapped the whole thing up with, I'll bet you did not see that coming lately? Have you spoken out about Musk and his view?
Get his ass.
And how that doesn't align with the anti-Semitism.
Calling people a Nazi because you disagree with them is foolish. It's foolish.
Whoa, that's not what. Whoa! It's interesting that you leapt to that conclusion, Mike Lawler, because that's not what that questioner asked. You know, that's not what the questioner was asking about. He was asking if you saw Elon Musk make that joke, and it's so interesting that you were like, "Oh, you're calling him a Nazi." I guess you couldn't take Elon Musk's very funny joke, huh? That's crazy. That's so strange.
And it doesn't actually serve a purpose. It doesn't actually serve a purpose. It may make you feel good, but it doesn't actually serve a purpose.
I'm sorry, but like accurately pointing out someone is a goose-stepping fascist, I think that serves a purpose. You know, I'm old-fashioned like that. Just a classic girl. I see we've gotten to the point where he's just refusing to engage with the audience.
280072. 280072.
8675309.
Nope. No, we didn't have them. 280063. 280063.
I'm a classical libertarian. Yeah, it's true.
The rules were you don't yell out.
A
So
socialist,
the person with
a libertarian socialist.
280063 can ask the next question. No.
How about we pull another number?
280040. 280040.
Okay, we have someone.
We have it in the back.
In the back.
Teresa, we have it in the back.
We have it in the back. Teresa, where do we have it? We have it in the back.
Ma'am, I'm right here. Great. Well, we didn't know. No problem. That's okay.
Oh, okay.
I have the numbers, so.
Hello?
Is it me you're looking
Congressman, we're in the far right corner.
Okay.
Yeah. In the far right corner.
Hi, Congressman. I just want to make clear.
I'm sorry. The fact that the audience laughed at that, like, that gives me hope. Like, unironically, you know.
That I stress that I'm an independent in the suburbs. So since you keep saying back and forth the prior administration here and there, I just want you to know I'm an independent. So I don't care if the person is green, yellow, Republican, Democrat, long as they policy fit what's good for my family. So now let me get into why my family's hurt right now. So I come from a family, a background of all law enforcement, including myself. All right, so I have several family members.
Okay, this is the moment of truth right here. This is the moment of truth. Has he lost the cop vote? This is the moment of truth. All right? Is this the one genuinely sympathetic member of the audience, or has he even lost the independent cop vote?
That also work for the FBI. They're in Washington. They're under attack. All right? So I just want to know why I never hear you speak out in defense of the FBI and all the other federal law enforcement, because these guys right now, for the work that they do, they have to be quiet, they don't want to be targeted, and they need someone to speak up for them, because they're looking like they're the bad guy. They're looking like they're the problem. So I never hear you really say that what's happening to all the law enforcement agencies, as well as some of the federal agencies, somebody just speak up for them. And that's what I want to know.
So, appreciate your question. I have always been very loud and clear about my support for law enforcement across every entity within law enforcement, including the FBI. I spoke out against what happened on January 6th. I spoke out against the pardons of those who attacked law enforcement on January 6th. They should not have been pardoned. I said that very clearly. Within any entity, on all sides, everybody can always find an example of something they disagree with, or some decision that was made, or try to associate the actions of one individual in a broad brush. I think the men and women of the FBI and the Department of Justice do a phenomenal job keeping our country safe, keeping our communities safe, and upholding the law. There are always going to be instances where people can disagree, people of good faith and goodwill can disagree on a decision or a outcome of a case. But the fact is, and I know many FBI agents, many of whom live in our community, many of whom have served for decades. In the aftermath of 9/11, it was the FBI that really took on the cause of protecting our country. And they did a phenomenal job, and all of us know that. And so, look, there are obviously changes that are being made in the Department of Justice, in the FBI,
man is begging to be bubbled up 'cause he knows he's burnt
DEA.
toast.
So true. So true. Forlorn, why are you sending me clips? Is it because I keep saying 8675309 because it's a reference to a song?
And I fundamentally believe within any entity, any government entity, reform in and of itself is not a bad thing. The reality is you should always be trying to improve processes. You should always be trying to right wrongs or correct things that may not have gone well, or decisions that were made that did not go well. I think in this country today, there is a strong feeling, and both sides have it. Both sides accuse the other side of weaponization. Both sides accuse the other side of using power to go after political opponents. I fundamentally believe all of us, as Americans, none of us should want that at any time, in any department, in any agency, because all it does is undermine our faith and confidence in our government and our system. And so I always defend law enforcement. That doesn't mean that I won't point out when there is a criticism to be had, or point out where a mistake was made. But the men and women, by and large, across this country, whether it's the FBI, whether it is our local law enforcement, the NYPD, the Sheriff's Department, our town municipal police departments. They do a phenomenal job and they deserve our thanks. And they're here tonight to keep everybody safe, and I appreciate them doing so.
He isn't standing up for the fired FBI agents and others.
No, because he's a coward. Like, just straight up, you know? Like, dude doesn't give a shit. He's checked out. He hates these people, and he knows that they hate him.
Supervisor, we do have that other number that was called, so if it's okay with you, I'd like to let her ask a question back here.
Also, thank you for the $10 super chat. I really, really appreciate that. Thank you so goddamn much.
Hi. Joy Macy. I'd like to know what your thoughts are on the fact that the United States in the last 100 days has suffered a terrible loss of pride. People are just ashamed of their country. And when I want to go to Europe and I'm told, well, you can, but you know, people hate you there now.
It's true.
And even in Canada. I think it's a terrible thing that has happened. I'd like your opinion. And the question, and
What's
the
your
other
thoughts
question
on how
is,
everyone
as
hates
part
us
of that,
now?
Is the fact that we are now not supporting Ukraine. And I'd like to have your opinion on the withdrawal of all our funds.
So, on the issue of America's standing in the world, we're going to strongly agree to disagree. The fact is, after 4 years of Joe Biden's foreign policy, America and the world are in the most precarious place since the lead up to World War II. You had that disastrous withdrawal in Afghanistan, the Russian invasion of Ukraine, the terrorist attack against Israel, the threats emanating in the Indo-Pacific from China. The unholy alliance between China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea is a major threat to the free world. And if you look at what happened under the last...
As we learned from the Sam Seder debate, they need to do all these cuts and internal investigations to stop the tax breaks happening in government departments.
It's true. They need to do all the cuts. You know, we need to stop the tax breaks. You know, because as we all know, the government departments keep hiring minorities, and every time they hire a minority, they get a tax break. That's simply how government departments function. That's the real waste, fraud, and abuse, the rampant tax breaks in this country. You know, the ones given to all of the federal government departments and the ones given to the billionaires.
Last administration with Iran, they wanted to renegotiate the Iran nuclear deal. They wanted to reinstate the JCPOA in a slimmed down version. And as a result, what they did was they lifted sanctions on Iran's petroleum exchange with China to the tune of $200 billion. That is what funded Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis. That's what funded their nuclear program. So the fact is, America's standing in the world was already in a precarious place. Now, when it comes to Ukraine, I have been a strong supporter of Ukraine. I continue to support Ukraine. I voted for every dollar of aid to Ukraine. And the reason I did is a few reasons. One, if Ukraine falls, that will be a disaster for Europe and the United States. If Russia is successful, Vladimir Putin will not stop at Ukraine. Vladimir Putin is a vile dictator and thug, and the world will be better off when Vladimir Putin is no longer in power, period.
The one time so far that he's got the audience on his side.
In Ukraine is that they are not in the strongest possible position, barring
oh boy,
barring U.S. troops going in. And I do not believe the American people want to send U.S. troops into Ukraine.
I'm sorry, trying to present this as like oh man, Ukraine wants U.S. troops. No, they don't. Ukraine doesn't want U.S. troops on the ground. They just want like more materials so that they have bullets in their rifles. That's it.
Have been willing to do is send resources, send military equipment, engage in training, and I do believe we should continue to do so. However, I have supported every dollar that has been spent in support of Ukraine. However, the challenge right now is this. If we continue down that trajectory, Ukraine is in a situation where, at best, they are likely to fight to a stalemate for another year, 2 years, 3 years. And with it will be...
I mean, my understanding is that Russia is down to like sending troops into battle on motorcycles because they're like out of shit. Like there's not like a magic like armory that's going to open up for Russia at this point. My understanding, and granted, take this with a huge grain of salt. This might be very, very simplistic, but if we simply keep arming Ukraine for like the next year and a half or so, like Russia's going to be cooked. Have you seen the tactical donkeys? I have seen the tactical donkeys.
Be more death and destruction. I don't want to see anybody die, and certainly not innocent Ukrainians. And you see, they want peace. They want this war to end. And so the objective is, at this moment, to negotiate a settlement. To negotiate a settlement and end this conflict in Ukraine and end the destruction that has occurred.
He would have swapped Russia's
But
UN nameplate
in order
for
to
Greater
negotiate,
Ukraine.
Sakitanuki, thank you for the 2 tier 1 subs. And that would have been the base move. Yeah. Just sneak in there. Little sneaky jape. The Institute for Strategic Affairs said Russia couldn't last more than a year. True.
You actually do have to sit down. You actually do have to get both sides. I was heartened to see President Trump meet with President Zelensky in the Vatican yesterday. I thought that was a positive sign. I thought that was an important step because we do need an agreement between Ukraine and Russia to end this conflict. And so that is critically important as we move forward. Equally as important. How am I lying?
Congressman,
how am I a liar?
We
Says
have
man
several
who
people
only
who have been
tells
asked
lies.
multiple times to please leave. I'd like this to be the last question, so then the people who did want to listen to you are able to.
Folks.
We have room for one more question after this.
Folks, so with respect...
I do.
With respect
God, his staffers
to
are so mad.
Iran...
Me too.
What is imperative with Iran is to ensure that Iran does not have a nuclear weapon, period. And that is something that we...
Man, if only we had some kind of, I don't know, deal with Iran that was nuclear. Like a nuclear deal with Iran. Only there was something like that. If only like some past president had done something along those lines, it would have really helped this out right now, wouldn't it?
We are going to have to deal with in the coming weeks and months, and hopefully avoid an escalation.
Okay, this is the last question that's going to be asked.
Last question that's going to be asked.
058106. 058106.
I'm coming.
Before 040.
And then the woman.
058106.
Okay. We have a conflict, so I'm
We'll
going to
do both.
two
We'll
quick
do both.
questions, but
Yeah,
they
we'll do
need to
both.
be quick.
I'm a number. Hi, yes, Congressman Lawler. I actually want to thank you for all your work that you do.
Folks, could you please be quiet and listen to the person who's asking the question? Please be respectful to your neighbor.
That's okay.
Go ahead, young lady.
Yes, I want to thank you, Congressman Lawler, for all the work you do and remind you and the audience that Rockland County residents overwhelmingly voted for President Trump as president of this United States. And we expect you to honor the citizens who wanted his protocol and his changes. So thank you. And my question for you is, Congressman Lawler, how do you plan on protecting federal religious rights in the state of New York?
Okay, we finally found the one person here who actually likes this clown. Jesus, it only took an hour and a half of randomly pulling names out of a hat. Fuck.
Where religious exemptions have been removed, which is a violation of their First Amendment religious liberties. And the state, it seems to be violating that.
You're talking about with respect to vaccines and health decisions?
At public and private schools, there was just a case in upstate New York with an Amish school that has been fined for not providing vaccines because Yep.
Look, I have always...
God, imagine asking that question in like the middle of one of the biggest measles epidemics we've had in like recent memory. Like, yeah, there was a school that didn't want to give vaccines to children. What are you going to do to protect their rights to not vaccinate their children? We want to make sure that they have the right to die of measles.
Believed in religious exemptions, and when before I got to the state legislature, they voted to repeal the religious exemption. I would not have supported that. I support it being reinstated. On a federal level, look, I think obviously individual constituents, folks.
Folks, this is the last question. So can we please behave
ourselves? And if you don't want to
sit,
you can leave. It's that simple.
Leave her alone. Leave her alone.
So, with respect to, from the federal standpoint, obviously, I do believe there can and probably should be court intervention. So if any entity or individual wanted to bring a lawsuit, certainly we can look legislatively to see if there are opportunities to protect, obviously, religious exemptions when it comes to that.
Okay.
Did you do that, or you certainly can.
I'll give you.
Yes, you certainly can.
We can connect.
Yep. But we can talk. We can follow up.
We have the last question here. This man's ticket was called before, so if that's okay, he promised he'd make it quick.
No worries.
Pressure's on. Here we go. So, all right. The Emoluments Clause is designed to ensure the public officials prioritize the interest of U.S. citizens and they don't have personal gain or foreign influence. President Trump now has his own cryptocurrency.
Yeah,
the government has no idea who's putting money in, who's taking money out. They don't know who the individuals are or the governments are. He makes money on every investment trade. He has his own social media platform that financially benefits him when he exclusively posts on it in order to increase members, bring attention to which increases his revenues. Not to mention the gold watches, the Bibles, the $2 billion from the Saudis, the $2 billion for his son-in-law. If this was the Biden administration, you'd be demanding a hearing. So why are we not demanding a hearing?
Great question.
Obviously, when the Democrats took control of Congress during the first administration, they did do numerous hearings on this. When Joe Biden...
Okay, but he has his own fucking cryptocurrency. He's auctioning off his time. He's auctioning off like dinner with him. and access to the White House via his cryptocurrency. When people, just by buying the cryptocurrency, pay him money in fees. Like, you can't make this argument. Oh, well, you know, they already looked into it. No, they didn't. They didn't look into this fucking shit. This is brazenly corrupt.
Was in office.
It's like, sorry, to really paint a picture here of what is happening with like the Trump cryptocurrency. Okay? To really paint the picture. Imagine Donald Trump built his own personal stock market. But instead of there being tons of different stocks you can buy and sell, there's just one. And it's owned by him as well. So then you have a bunch of people come in who buy that one stock in his stock market. Every transaction of that stock benefits him, like pays him in fees. So just the act of buying it gives him money. Not only that, it makes the value go up. The more you buy, the more the value goes up. That's essentially what's happening here. It's just being done with crypto. It's not like, we have to look into it. We just don't know how it works. Like, no, this is like basically as blatant as you can get outside of just a guy walking up with a briefcase full of cash, you know?
Yes, the Oversight Committee did hearings with respect to his son's foreign dealings. At the end of the day, to me, the issue of crypto, we are actually in the process through the Financial Services Committee of passing federal regulatory framework when it comes to crypto.
It's a Trumpendom. I love it.
There is not currently a regulatory framework, which certainly is imperative. As I said before, earlier, when it comes to the issue of people trading stocks, I don't believe in that. If you are a elected official, certainly at the federal level,
believe in it?
I think it should be precluded. And so,
if only there was some way a lawmaker could say introduce something like that and make it happen. If only there was like some kind of person who could make laws, like, you know, maybe an entire branch of government that could do that. That'd be pretty cool.
Certainly, one of the things that we can look at, obviously, is once we have a federal regulatory framework, is how we might deal with that with respect to cryptocurrency. But with respect to any type of investigation, at the end of the day, if you own a business, if you have business in trust or a corporate holding, which is what most of the president's business dealings are, they're corporate, that is a separate legal entity.
He hasn't divested himself from his goddamn holdings. He didn't do that last time. He didn't do it this time. You fucking liar. This man, like, is a liar to a degree that is infuriating me, and I have a lot of patience for this shit. Did you see the woman get carried out, or did they cut it out? The camera didn't cut it out, but the crowd was chanting while they did it. I saw a video of like the guy who was like calling for her to be executed or whatever. But like, I don't know, keep showing up to this dipshit's town halls.
And his sons, as far as I understand, are running the business.
Okay, that's the last question. I want to personally thank Congressman Lawler.
You know, the interesting part about this is that they had an entire like lottery system, and somehow statistically the presence of people who really dislike what Mike Lawler is doing must have been really high, or they must have been really lucky, because that random draw got one person out of that crowd who actually liked him. That was crazy.
Who agreed to hold this town hall knowing what was going to happen tonight.
Yeah, he's so brave. He's so brave. doing nothing in the face of a fascist takeover of America. So brave to condescend to his own constituents.
Well, I want to thank Teresa and Brenda.
It's so brave of him to do his job, chat.
For being very gracious and patient and kind. And I certainly want to thank my staff, who unfortunately over the first few months have...
Can I just say, like, one thing that is maybe too mean? Just one thing that's maybe a little bit too mean? This guy looks like he'd be the kind of guy who would have to go to the ER because, like, he stuck his dick into, like, some kind of piece of machinery and it got stuck. All right? Like, this guy gives me that vibe, and it's a very specific vibe that I don't get from a whole lot of dudes, but, like, this guy is the kind of guy who, like, finds a hole and is just like, well, that's kind of dick-shaped. Maybe I should put it in. And he sits there all day thinking about it until, like, late in the night, he goes back to that hole, puts his dick in it, and it gets stuck. And then, like, the fire department has to come, and they, like, you know, plasma cutter it out, and then they have to go to the hospital to, like, get it extracted. And I don't know how to really describe how this guy gives me that vibe, but that's the vibe I get from this guy. That's exactly Tech Knight from The Boys. I need to catch up on The Boys because I have no idea what that reference is.
Continually been subjected to a lot of hate.
I just blew tea up my nose. I'm sorry.
Frankly, terrible conduct.
No, that's the thing, Superjet Guy. He's not even horny about the hole. He just has to know what happens.
Brooke, you really need to stop. You really need to stop, Brooke. You really do. It's sad, Brooke.
Okay.
You really need to stop, Brooke. It's sad.
Why is he harassing one specific woman in the crowd?
Appreciate you coming out tonight. Appreciate you coming out tonight. Okay, Brooke.
I want to hear the crowd just start chanting, fuck you, fuck you.
Brooke, have a good night, Brooke. Have a good night. All right, folks, thank you very much. Appreciate you coming. Enjoy.
Shout out to Brooke. Brooke is probably like a cool person to hang out with. What an asshole. what an absolute clusterfuck that was. Ooh, Shrub Girl, very true. I get mad calls 14-year-old girls attractive vibes. Yeah. I really enjoyed that. I thought that was great. Thanks for voting to cover that, chat. I really got, I do think that coming back to these, and I see it in you guys and how you guys talk about, your experiences under what's happening right now. But, like, you guys really seem to get something out of seeing these town halls. And I know that it would be really good to just, like, show you, like, a 1 or 2 minute clip from these things. But, like, genuinely, you guys seem to get a lot out of watching the entire thing,
As a former dispatcher, I can confidently say, he's the caller that would have random items stuck where they shouldn't be. Barbies in the butt, maybe.
I was, okay, Sarah, sorry you're blue. I was thinking the same thing. But I didn't know if that was going too far. But, then I went with Dick and Holes. God, Mike Dick and Holes. Anyway. That is the segment. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Like, comment, and subscribe again if you feel so inclined. But Mike Lawler is maybe one of my favorite guys to see constituents yell at him. It's a genuinely uplifting experience for me. That was great. Hell yeah.
Riverboat Jack is coming to town. All the viewers gather around. Twitch and YouTube and Swishy streams. All that content is bursting the seams. Politics, gaming, and plenty more. Your sense of fashion you'll adore. So grab your stuff and hop aboard. We're going straight to Jack's Discord. Riverboat.